Richard, so nice to meet you. You are such a wonderful example of people-centric leadership that we're very honored to welcome you into our community at the Center for Social Capital.
Well, thanks for having me, Chris.
So, for any of our viewers and readers that don't know, you're the co-founder, CEO, and chief storyteller, which I love, as you put it, for Menlo Innovations, a software and IT consulting firm that has been recognized repeatedly for its innovative and positive workplace culture. And most impressively and most interestingly, you built a company culture entirely around this concept of joy. And first of all, for everybody that hasn't had a chance to experience you and your company, what do you mean by that?
Yeah. Well, we've created a culture that is intentionally focused on what we like to call the business value of joy. And a lot of people wonder, what on earth is that? And what does joy have to do with business in particular? And, as you said, we're a custom software design and development firm. And I often challenge people, hey, if you were bringing a project to us and for some weird reason, half of my team had joy and the other half didn't, which half would you want working on your project? And of course, to a person, they'd say the joyful half, of course. And I'd say, why? What difference would it make? Why would you care? And they say things like you'd produce better outcomes. You'd be easier to work with. You'd care more about the quality of the work you do. And I say, so you're with me. There is in fact tangible business value to joy. And so for us, joy has a purpose-based meaning. We think every business inside of its purpose should be able to ask and answer two simple questions. Who do you serve and what would delight look like for them? And for us, the people we serve are people who don't pay us for what we do. We actually serve the end users of the software that we're designing and building. People we meet in small numbers, but not in large numbers. They often don't know who we are because a lot of the work we do is built for someone else and they deliver it. But when those people who use the work of our hearts, our hands, and our minds come back and say, I love this software, which almost nobody ever says about software in general. That is joy for us. That is the kind of joy we are trying to produce in the world.
And you've got some very real operational ideas that you've talked about for how to implant that in your company, correct?
Yes. Yep.
Share a few of them if you could.
Yeah, we have a unique enough culture here, Chris, that about 2,000 to 3,000 people a year travel from all over the world just to come see how it works. Now, let me say at the outset, because in the earliest 20 years of Menlo, this wasn't that unusual, but nowadays it almost seems unique. We are 5 days a week in the office.
Okay.
Every day. And we work in pairs, two people to one computer, sharing a keyboard and a mouse back and forth all day long. Those pairs are assigned and we switch them at least every 5 business days. They're working in a big open and collaborative space in conversation with each other all day long. So our space is actually very high energy. It's a lot of human energy. It's actually palpable. When people walk in, they often say, wow, because you can feel the human energy in the room. So that's one of the things we did that was fairly different and unique, and more unique today than ever.
So, and that's the concept of collaboration, right, is a big pillar. But you've got some other ones, human dignity and psychological safety.
Yeah. So when we think about the people we serve, our goal is to end human suffering in the world as it relates to technology, which is a big mission. And we do that with a specialized practice we call high-tech anthropology. So a lot of people wonder, why would a software design firm need anthropologists on their team? And it's simply this. If you accept that one day the software will be used by humans, wouldn't it be neat to study those humans in their native environment the way an anthropologist does? And learn through observation more than interview and see what their goals are, where they make common mistakes and design those mistakes out of the system. So the number one thing we're trying to do is honor the people we intend to serve. Now, we don't believe for a second that you could produce joy out in the world unless there's also joy in the room. So we can talk about some of the human aspects of inside the room as well.
That's kind of one of those no-brainer moments, right? Where you don't realize it until you see it, and then you go, "No kidding," right? I mean,
Right. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and so many of the policies and ideas that we talk about at the Center for Social Capital are just like that. They're like, they're so human and they're so basic, but for some reason they're not being done. But then as soon as you do them, you go, "Oh my God, this works so easily," and it's a no-brainer. So I mean, I love hearing that. So there's a lot to this, and we're going to talk a minute about you've written two books. So I mean, there's a lot to this that we can never get into completely. But all of this at the end of the day, these aren't just nice concepts, right? I mean, these lead to greater profitability and success for the company. And do me a favor, and you're a very humble and kind person, but brag a little bit for a minute for other leaders out there that maybe are thinking about doing this kind of thing and say, well, that's nice, but does it really lead to profitability and success? What would you say to them?
Well, there's a few things I could say. Number one, we're 25 years old this year, so we've hit the quarter century mark. Self-funded. We built the company out of its own profits. We have no outside investors, so there's no big, pool of gold somewhere that we can dive into when
Wow.
our
Yeah.
joyful practices are so expensive that we have to borrow money to take care of them. So this is all built on the profits that we generate. So the only way you stay in business for 25 years is to make sure it is sustainable from a business standpoint. And we've done that over 25 years. And, and these haven't just been any 25 years, in the last 25 years, we've had 9/11, 2008 financial crisis. Well,
Yeah.
now we could
Yeah.
say three wars. I used to say just two, but now I could say three. And the pandemic. I will just say we were just doing the numbers today, and we did more business in the first quarter of 2026 than we did in the entire year of 2020, just to show what a
Wow.
topsy-turvy world it can be sometimes. But I think the thing I'm prouder of, Chris, not just that we've run a good business for 25 years, and of course, you don't get to play the game if you don't, and that's a fundamental
Yeah.
truth for all businesses. Um, but my old life, so I have kind of two lives, almost evenly bifurcated now between the 25 years of Menlo and me running a career that was pretty much cut from the standard bolted cloth in the software industry, which quite frankly was chaos, vacillating back and forth with bureaucracy back and forth every day, right? And
Yeah.
so, but what my life used to be like was running from fire to fire to fire every single day. And I'm guessing anybody in your audience who's had a technical team or a technical effort or is a technology firm like I was working in back then understands exactly what I'm talking about. The technology industry is an industry of firefighting. And I used to have to over explain this, and then things like CrowdStrike happens, and we have to reboot the planet. So everybody knows what's going on when I talk about emergencies in the software business. Chris, in 25 years, we've had two software emergencies in 25 years.
Oh my God.
My life used to run from fire to fire to fire every single day.
Wow. Wow.
And so,
Um,
I want to drive home that point for your
yeah, yeah,
audience a
yeah.
little bit, because I know, you want some evidence. Your audience deserves some evidence of,
Exactly.
does this produce better results? And imagine the upward spiral of morale that occurs within a team and the lift of human energy when everybody says, you know what, I had a chance to work with pride when I went to work today. What's the evidence of it? We don't firefight. We don't work overtime. We don't go crazy because phones are ringing off the hook with problems. That is such a difference for most who work in my industry.
I love hearing that because I think that is a subtle but incredibly important and significant idea that doesn't get talked about as much. My industry is a similar industry. Journalism is, it's this idea that all we're doing is writing articles and or or doing broadcasting or whatever, it's not the end of the world. But everybody in my industry thinks it is the end of the world. And most journalistic organizations run on this idea that all that matters is the story, and damn the torpedoes, full steam ahead. Your family could be dying, but you got to get the story out. And we've prided ourselves, and I pride myself on saying, if somebody's got an emergency or something is happening, forget about the story. I mean, it's your life is more important.
Mhm.
And I love hearing you say that you don't firefight. And obviously, the first order of that is you try to run your company in a non-chaotic way and in a structured way that allows that not to have to happen. Um, and I think probably, like you're saying, a big part of that, would you say, is you're giving people the confidence, and you're empowering the people in your organization, and you're respecting them enough that then that's reciprocal, and that comes back, right? And they want to try to do the best for your company and try to do the best for their co-employees. And so when you have that kind of collaborative work environment, there's less of a chance for these fires to happen, right?
Yeah, I think a really popular word in business that often gets misused, I would say, is accountability.
Mm.
And usually, a big boss like me goes to my team and says, Chris, I need you to be accountable. And, and it feels like maybe that's what's taught in business schools is the accountability flows down from the top to the bottom. And you should be accountable for results, and you better, I don't care if it's your kid's birthday, I don't care if it's Christmas morning, you're coming in. But the flip side of accountability, what I refer to as circular accountability, is, hey, if I ask you to get something done by Wednesday, I should have checked in with you first and said, is that even possible? So I should be accountable for asking whether I'm making a reasonable request. And number two, I should be accountable saying, hey, Chris, if this is actually the most important thing on my mind, I need to be able to confirm to you that you can set aside other things or transfer them to other people, that I have the accountability to make sure I give you the space to do the thing I'm asking you to do. And if I
Yeah.
don't do that, why would
Yeah.
anybody sign up for that?
So you have such an incredibly, for sake of a better word, Zen-like personality and perspective.
I'm going to bring that wife in here, yeah, my wife in here, and see if she agrees with that. She's sitting right over there.
But seriously, you do. And not to be judgmental of your industry, but I think you kind of intimated this a little bit. The technical industry is not really known for that Zen-like attitude and personality and disposition with employees and with people. I'm curious, what is there something in your life, in your upbringing, that made you like this? Because it sounds like you started your company like this. So you have always been
Yeah,
like this in your company.
been like this from day one.
Is
Yeah.
there something in your career, though, in your upbringing, though, that told you this is the way to do it?
Well, I'll share a story because chief
Please.
storyteller, right?
Yeah.
My daughter, my middle daughter, got promoted into a management position at a different company, and she called me up one day and she's like, "Hey, Dad, I now have people reporting to me, and I'm reading your book, Chief Joy Officer."
Oh, that's great.
And I thought, "Oh, that's so cool. How neat. What a good feeling." And she goes, "Yeah, I want to be like you."
Hmm.
And I said, Lauren, did you read the first third of the book that was all about the 12 years of pain I went through? She goes, yeah, I don't want that part. I just want to. And I said, I get it. I wish you the best, but understand that everything I am today was born out of that pain and that disillusionment, where I was honestly, Chris, looking at getting out of the industry entirely.
Oh,
And
wow.
maybe this fits into the Zen thing. I wanted to start a canoe camp in the Boundary Waters of Minnesota. Okay. Now, I think they just got about 4 feet of snow yesterday, so that might have not been as good an idea as I thought. Certainly be a seasonal activity. But Uh, but in that moment, I thought, what do I really, really want out of my career? And I've been able to articulate this in a way that I've given talks literally around the planet, and I've never had another software engineer, which is where I come from as a profession, dispute me. Not Tokyo, not Berlin, not Bangalore, not Paris, not Reykjavik, nobody. When I tell them this, there is only one thing a software engineer actually wants in their career, and that is to see their work be delivered
Okay.
and delight the people it's intended to receive. So much so that they come back later and say, I love what you did. You made my life better. Because software people are magicians, after all, right? If you don't know how software works and you see people like us who do, you're like, I don't know how you do that, right? We are magicians. We get a machine to do what we want it to do simply by our thoughts and our fingertips. That's pretty magical. But when it goes wrong, when it goes sideways, when we frustrate people, when people grab their hair and say, I don't understand why it works like this. Why didn't they ever talk to somebody like me? And why are there so many problems with it? There is no joy in that for us in the profession. And that's what the first 25 years of my profession were like. Not that it was 100% from one end of the day to the other like that, but more often than not. And I just looked at it and said, there's got to be a better way to do this.
So I would like to kind of just, get a little more of that pain. I know you talk about it in the book, and we definitely want people to read the book or the books that you've written. But if you could just zero in on that a little bit more, because I'd love people to get an idea. When you talk about pain and suffering for that many years, what was the essence of that pain and suffering?
Yeah, so a lot of companies that build, say, technology for a product that they're trying to bring to market, they send the marketing people out in the world and say, hey, there's this need, and there's these people who have this need. You guys need to build a product that fills this need for those people. And usually the technical team is kind of in the dark. We are somewhat beholden to the people who are giving us, we'll call it the requirements for what this is. So then we go off into a black hole for some amount of time, potentially years, and we build the thing we think we heard about, right? And we
Right.
build what they asked us to do. They asked us to build X, we built X, and now we give it to them. And somewhere pretty quickly, somebody says, oh, that's not what we need. Like, what do you mean that's not what you need? That's what you asked us. Well, I know it's what you asked you for, but we left off a bunch of details, and you guys missed the mark. And oh, by the way, we're so late to market now. We're gonna just ship what you've built. Okay, we'll fix it
Oh,
later.
wow. Okay.
And then it goes out into the world, and everybody's screaming and shouting, this doesn't do what I want. I don't know why I paid money for this. It's got bugs galore. And now we're pulling all-nighters. Okay, now we're working literally 70, 80, 90-hour work weeks. There were stories of people at Microsoft who would bring sleeping bags to work for months at a time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And remember, Windows Vista literally didn't ship. It got put on all the new computers. And right after that, Microsoft sent a coupon with every brand new computer, every new Hewlett Packard, every new Dell that said, you can downgrade from Vista to XP because we just missed the mark. Well, that was like 5 years worth of 10,000 people's efforts literally
Jesus.
flushed down the
Yeah.
toilet,
Yeah.
right? And so even if you haven't been in the tech industry, you have seen the edges of this in how we behave. Remember the blue screen of death that we would always get when we're on,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And you were right in the middle of some article that you had to get out, and then all of a sudden, blue screen of death, and you lost all your work. And you're like, what? What the heck? Microsoft's worth billions of dollars, and they can't make their stuff work right? And believe me, it's not because they had poor engineers there. They had poor process.
Wow. And that goes full circle right back to what you were talking about, right? About it, empowering your employees, getting them involved in a sense of ownership, and autonomy and everything else, right? And when you do that, they feel more connected to the final product. You're not just leading them blind. And so that was great. Thank you, so much for sharing that. So pain and suffering, right? I mean, is what leads to change so often. So,
Yeah.
um, not that I'm glad you went through that pain and suffering, but I'm glad that it led you to doing this and really maybe changing the world for a lot of other technical people, and for people like us, who are going to be the end users and whatnot, who can utilize those programs and everything in a much more user-friendly way. So, I mean, everything you're doing, it's so coincident with our 10 principles of social capital leaders. And we love it. And there's another thing that I think is it's so powerful about you. And it's something that kind of floats underneath the radar and it doesn't get said a lot, but you're extremely accessible. And I know this has been written about you a lot, but I've experienced it. I mean, I reached out to you and got a response back, I don't know, a day or two later, maybe, which is
I'm
incredible.
nutty about email, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was incredibly responsive. And, we honor some great leaders, but some of them are not as responsive. And, it may take, 5, 10 emails to get to them. And I think that's such a powerful and overlooked part of being a people-centric leader sometimes. I mean, I respond, honestly, I respond to emails from people that are obviously reaching out they're reaching out to me to sell me things and they haven't even read what our company does. And I
Right.
still
Yep.
respond to them. I may be a little snarky and say, have you done any research on our company at all? But
Yeah, I had
I still
somebody reach out
respond.
to me recently like that, and they said, Mr. Sheridan, have you ever thought about writing a book? And like, oh, you've done a lot of research.
Yeah, I just so that's funny because for years I've helped other people write their books as well. I've written, 4 or 5 books, and then I had a company where I help people write books. And one of the first things I ever did when I reached out to somebody is researched if they wrote a book or not, and what it was about.
Seems like a
And
basic thing to do.
yeah, it's like um but is that something that's intentional with you to be that responsive?
Yeah, look, one of the things we decided to do from the very beginning was share what we learned with the world. When you pick a big mission like end human suffering in the world as it relates to technology, Chris, we can't do that by ourselves.
Yeah.
So our goal is to share what we've learned with everybody. There's nothing we do here that we keep a trade secret. And so, yes, I make myself readily available to others. We actually have this big company goal by like 2032 to share joy with at least 1 million people around the planet. And one way to do that is talk to you. We record this. I don't know how many people are going to watch this, Chris.
Exactly.
And now somebody might pick up a copy of the book and they read it and it makes a difference in their lives. And so, that really big mission is just a part of what drives me personally. And it just, I don't know. Somebody asked me once, like, what do you want to said after you pass? And I said, sort of like, just that I left the world in a better place than I found it.
Mm. Um, and you mentioned the books, and I want to let people know about the books, by the way, so they can check them out. So you've got 2 books, right? And one of them is called Joy Inc., right? Is that correct? And
Yep.
then the other one is Chief Joy Officer, right?
Yes.
Can you just quickly sort of sum up what the difference of those 2 books is? So if somebody wants to go get them.
Yeah, so Joy Inc. was almost the world demanding me write it because so many people had come to visit and they just kept saying to me, holy cow, what we just saw was mind blowing. Have you ever thought about writing a book? You have to write a book about this. So, and it was really about the inner workings of Menlo Innovations. Literally, the subtitle is How We Built a Workplace People Love. And it just tells the history. It tells my personal history and the 12 years of pain and then what
Mhm.
was birthed out of that and how it all works and fits together and why. And then Chief Joy Officer, how great leaders elevate human energy and eliminate fear is what I call more the invisible part of Menlo. How does the leadership philosophy of Menlo work? What are some of the core principles behind the leadership philosophy of the company? And so that's a little more sort of beneath the surface level, because people will come and visit, they'll see our physical artifacts, they'll see how our team is operated, they might see the unusual way we interview. All of those things are very visible, but the underlying piece is really the part people want to know about too, is more the soul of the business.
And you said you actually invite people leaders in to
Yep.
learn how to do this,
Yep.
right?
Yeah, we
And
have kind of 1 to 3 tours a day that happen here. People come in, they spend anywhere from a day to a week visiting with us. And again, we share everything we've learned.
and so if a leader wants to do that, how do they make that happen? Would
Yep.
they?
You just go to our website, right on the homepage is tours and classes. And the good news is in 2020, we figured out how to do virtual tours. So if you have audience members from around the world who can't afford to get on an airplane and fly to Detroit and then drive out to Ann Arbor and get a hotel room here and stay for a few days, we have free virtual tours a couple of times a month, and they're here by the click of a button, and they're home when they click the next button.
And it's menloinnovations.com is the
Yes,
website, right?
correct.
And that's the easiest way for
Yep.
and it's pretty clear. They can just find out how to go on a
Yep,
tour and
right.
whatnot.
Like I said, right on the homepage, and it lists out all the tours and classes that are available.
And the books are available on Amazon.
And wherever books are sold. Yeah,
Okay.
they're ubiquitously available. In fact, Joy Inc. is in about 6 or 7 different languages as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, okay, I always like to wrap up with, you already talked about some of the future ideas and ideals here. You want, 1 million. You've got this goal of 1 million to spread, to spread the word to and whatnot. Uh, any other big plans for the future?
Our big plan is when you create something special like this. I'm an older guy, not going to live forever. And so one day there will be a transition, whether I like it or not. And the goal is to keep the company privately held so that we can keep it special. And, that's a little harder route. The easiest thing for me to do at this stage of my career is sell it off to, one of the big 5 consulting firms. And our delightful little culture would probably be dead in a week. So
Have you had offers?
I get emails every day. And those are sometimes what's really interesting, you speak about answering all your emails. I don't answer all of them because I get too many, but every once in a while I'll just respond back. I'll say, tell me what you know about my company. Just, that seems like a pretty fair question, right? Somebody wants
Right.
to find tell me what you know about.
Right.
Crickets. Never get a response.
Oh, that is funny.
I mean,
it's not funny. It's scary, but
well, it just seems
yeah.
dumb, right? You spent whatever your system is reaching out to me and asking, and I just ask you, tell me what you know about the business you're trying to buy from me, and you don't even respond, and I never hear from you again. I'm like,
Yeah.
What's up with that? So,
we could have a whole other talk on exit strategies, quote unquote, because obviously, you zeroed in on something that's obvious and inevitable. At some point, everybody's got to retire or pass something on or
pass
whatnot.
away, right?
Yeah, or pass away.
Yeah.
And what do you do to secure the vision and mission of the company? And it's really wonderful to hear you say that that you want to retain that and keep it private for that reason, because we live in this world, right, of people starting companies, and you talk to venture people, and one of the first questions that comes up is, oh, what's your exit strategy? Well, you're just starting the company and somebody's asking you for your exit strategy, right?
Well, and that makes sense. When you're taking other people's money, they want to know when I'm going to get my money back. I mean, that is like pure logic there. I get that. That's why we didn't take any outside money, because we didn't want to have to face that particular type of question, especially early on. And, quite frankly, now, I will say I'm an entrepreneurial free range chicken. I could do whatever I want, and, there's no, there's no determined path. I don't have to satisfy any outside investor except for Mrs. Sheridan.
And that's important.
It is very important.
Okay, I'm going to leave. I'd love to just kind of sign off here. This has been wonderful. And I'm going to kind of, throw you for a loop a little bit by just throwing you one big question. If you had to come up with one single reason to do business this way that would convince other people, what would it be?
You just sleep better at night.
I love that. I love that. Hey, Richard, this has been wonderful. I really appreciate you taking the time to share your very innermost and authentic thoughts with not only me, but our readers and our viewers. And I know that so many will learn from this. And I really hope that everybody goes and gets your books. And also, leaders that are reading this, highly recommend they reach out to you, come by for a visit.
I'm going to just suggest if people do want to reach out to me, I'm pretty nutty about LinkedIn messages as well. And that's
Okay.
an easy place to find me. Just look for Richard Sheridan, Menlo Innovations on LinkedIn. Mention this podcast, and I'll just say, yep, I accept that invite. And then we can have a conversation there as well.
Well, thank you so much, Richard, for extending that invitation. And I'm sure a lot of people will take you up on it and appreciate it. So, hey, Richard, thank you so much for taking the time to share with us today. And I'm sure we'll be talking to you again soon.
Yeah, great to talk with you today, Chris.
All right. Bye bye.